In a hospital ward filled with the sounds of beeping machines and whispered prayers, a nurse who had devoted her life to others suddenly met a fate she never expected. She died. But what happened next was a message that would change the world forever. A message from Jesus. She was sent back with one clear purpose: to teach humanity the power of love and selfless service. This is her story. Her name was Sarah Richards. For over 15 years, Sarah had worked as a nurse at St. Joseph's Hospital, a place she had come to think of as her second home. It wasn't just the sterile white walls or the busy corridors that made the hospital feel familiar. It was the people, the patients, their families, and her colleagues that gave it life. And Sarah loved them all deeply. Every day she woke up with the same sense of purpose, knowing her work mattered. She had witnessed births, witnessed deaths, and everything in between. Her hands had offered comfort, her voice had calmed anxieties, and her heart had bled with those who were suffering. But one night, while caring for a critically ill patient, Sarah collapsed unexpectedly in the ICU. Her heart stopped, and the world as she knew it faded into darkness. The doctors worked tirelessly to bring her back, but despite their best efforts, Sarah's body remained lifeless. And then, she was gone. It wasn't the first time Sarah had encountered death. As a nurse, she had seen it countless times, yet she had never truly understood what it meant until she experienced it for herself. There was no bright light, no long tunnel to walk through. Instead, it was pure stillness, a weightlessness that seemed to transcend all boundaries of time and space. For what felt like an eternity, Sarah was suspended in this state of quiet serenity. She felt an overwhelming peace, a peace she had never known before. But then, out of the stillness, she heard a voice that seemed to resonate deep within her soul, with both authority and love. "Sarah, it is not yet your time. You have much work left to do." And then she saw him, Jesus. His presence was nothing like anything Sarah had ever experienced. It wasn't just that he was radiating light, it was the love and warmth that emanated from him that enveloped her completely. It was as if every ounce of fear, pain, and doubt she had ever known evaporated in his presence. He spoke to her, but his words were not just for her. They were for the world, for the people who had forgotten the meaning of selfless love, who had turned inward and forgotten the power of service. "Sarah, I have given you a heart to heal. You have lived your life in service to others, but now I am calling you to share a message. The world needs to embrace love, compassion, and selflessness once again. Your life of service has been a reflection of my love for humanity. It is time to remind the world of that." The moment Sarah awoke, she felt different. It wasn't just the heaviness of her body or the overwhelming physical exhaustion. It was the knowledge, the clarity that had settled in her heart. She had been sent back for a reason. She had been chosen to deliver a message that would change the world. And though the doctors and her colleagues were amazed by her miraculous recovery, Sarah knew her purpose was far from over. It wasn't long before Sarah began to speak openly about her experience. At first, people dismissed it as a figment of her imagination, the result of the trauma her body had gone through. But there was something about the way she spoke, the intensity in her eyes, that made them stop and listen. Sarah's message was simple but profound. Embrace love, live with selflessness, help one another. This world is hurting, but we can heal it, one act of kindness at a time. As Sarah shared her story, something unexpected happened. The people around her began to change. Her message, though humble, began to resonate deeply with those. She wasn't just speaking words, she was living them. Each day, Sarah took her message of love and service into every corner of her life. She helped the homeless, cared for the elderly, and volunteered at shelters. Everywhere she went, she became a living example of the very things Jesus had shown her. Soon, her story spread beyond the walls of St. Joseph's Hospital. Sarah's journey became a catalyst for change. People began to reach out to her, sharing their own stories of how her message had inspired them to be more kind, more compassionate, more selfless. They were awakening to the beauty of serving others, of finding joy in the simple act of giving. But the more Sarah did, the more she realized how deep the wounds of society were. She saw the division, the hatred, and the fear that had gripped the hearts of many. It wasn't enough to just tell people to embrace love. She needed to show them, through action, how to heal the brokenness within themselves and their community. As Sarah continued her work, she faced many challenges. Some people welcomed her message with open arms, but others resisted. It was hard for many to let go of their pride, their anger, their fear. But Sarah refused to be discouraged. She knew that love and service were the only answers. She had seen it in the eyes of those she cared for, in the moments of compassion that had the power to heal deep wounds. One day, she visited a woman named Mary who was struggling with addiction. Mary had lost everything, her family, her job, her sense of purpose. She felt utterly alone. When Sarah arrived at her doorstep, Mary tried to push her away, but Sarah didn't give up. She sat with her, listened to her pain, and offered her love. Over time, Sarah helped Mary find the courage to take the first steps toward recovery. Word of Sarah's selfless acts spread, and soon, other communities began to adopt her principles of love and service. People from all walks of life, regardless of their religion or background, started to come together to heal the wounds of the world. They volunteered, they cared for one another, and they worked tirelessly to create a better world. Sarah continued to serve, day in and day out, but her heart was full. The message Jesus had given her was no longer just her own. It had become a movement, a revolution of love. People who had once been consumed by selfishness, greed, and fear were now beginning to see the beauty of selfless giving. If Sarah's story has inspired you to reflect on your own life and purpose, please take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. Share your thoughts and experiences with us. How are you embracing love and service in your own life? Let's join together to make the world a kinder, more compassionate place, one act of service at a time. The years that followed Sarah's miraculous return from death were marked by both struggle and triumph. Her life became a living testament to the power of divine love and the transformative nature of selflessness. It wasn't an easy path, nor was it one without its share of setbacks. But through it all, Sarah's heart remained steadfast, fueled by the message she had received from Jesus. In the beginning, when Sarah started to share her experience, most people thought she was simply trying to cope with a traumatic event. After all, who could truly believe that someone could die and return with a divine calling? But as Sarah's actions began to speak louder than her words, her message started to resonate. The world was hungry for love and connection. Sarah was merely the vessel through which that truth flowed. Her work in hospitals expanded beyond her duties as a nurse. Sarah began to establish programs for those suffering from mental health issues, addiction, and homelessness. She worked tirelessly to create spaces where people could heal, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually as well. She became a mentor to many, a symbol of unwavering faith and service. One evening, while visiting a shelter for battered women, Sarah met a young girl named Lily, who had run away from home after years of abuse. The girl was alone, vulnerable, and frightened. At first, she refused to speak to anyone, including Sarah, but as Sarah sat quietly beside her, offering nothing but a simple gesture of care, the young girl eventually opened up. Slowly, with Sarah's patience and kindness, Lily began to heal. She entered a rehabilitation program and eventually went on to become a counselor herself, helping other women who had been in her shoes. These were the moments Sarah lived for, the quiet victories, the small gestures of love that often went unnoticed by the rest of the world, but meant everything to those involved. It wasn't just about changing the world, it was about changing individual lives, one by one. However, the challenges were real. Despite her success and growing influence, there were those who still resisted Sarah's message. Some saw her as naive, others as misguided. There were nights when she felt weary, when the weight of the world seemed almost too heavy to bear. But each time Sarah would return to her faith, remembering the words Jesus had spoken to her, "It is not enough to speak of love, you must live it every day in every action." Through the years, Sarah's life was a constant balancing act. She was no longer just a nurse, she was a leader, an advocate, a friend, and a teacher. She had helped build a network of compassionate individuals who, like her, believed in the power of love and service. Together, they created programs for those in need, opened shelters for the homeless, and supported families who had nowhere to turn. These initiatives were not just about providing food or shelter, they were about providing dignity, love, and compassion. One day, Sarah was invited to speak at a global conference on mental health. As she stood before thousands of people, sharing her experience and the message she had been entrusted with, she felt a surge of emotion. This was more than just a career for her. It was a calling, a mission that had begun when she had died and returned to life. As the audience listened intently, Sarah felt the full weight of the responsibility she had been given. But there was no fear, only love. "I have learned that the greatest gift we can give to one another is not money, power, or success," Sarah told the crowd, her voice steady and strong. "It is love. Love is the force that binds us together, the force that can heal even the deepest wounds. It is not always easy. It requires sacrifice, but it is worth every ounce of effort." And as she spoke, Sarah saw tears in the eyes of many in the audience. She knew then that she had succeeded. She had taken the message she was given and spread it across the world. She had ignited a fire of compassion that could not be extinguished. As the years passed, Sarah's work continued to flourish. Her influence reached far beyond the borders of her town. People from every corner of the globe began to adopt her message, making love and service the cornerstone of their lives. The ripple effect was profound. It wasn't just that Sarah had inspired people, it was that she had ignited a movement, a revolution of kindness and selflessness that was changing the very fabric of society. Sarah's legacy was not one of accolades or recognition, it was one of lives transformed, one person, one family, one community at a time. She had given the world a powerful reminder that no matter how difficult life may seem, love remains the most potent force we have. And as she sat quietly in her home one evening, reflecting on all she had accomplished, Sarah knew that her work was far from over. She was just one person, but she had witnessed the ripple effect of love, and that was enough to inspire her to continue on her mission. There were still people who needed healing, who needed hope, and Sarah would be there, offering the same love and care she had always. But in her heart, Sarah knew that her task was now larger than she could ever fulfill alone. The world had embraced her message, and now it was up to each of us to carry that message forward. The work was never truly done. It was a journey, an eternal mission that could only be completed through the collective will of humanity. In the quiet moments of her life, Sarah reflected on her experience. She realized that the greatest gift she had ever received was not just the second chance at life, but the clarity and peace that came from understanding her purpose. She had been chosen, not because she was special, but because love was the most powerful thing in the universe, and the world needed to know that. She was merely the vessel. The legacy of Sarah Richards, the nurse who returned from death, was now ingrained in the hearts and minds of millions. It was a legacy of love, selflessness, and hope, a legacy that would continue to change the world long after she was gone. If Sarah's story has moved you, and you believe in the power of love, kindness, and service, please like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. Share your thoughts with us. How are you embracing selflessness in your own life? Let's continue this journey together, spreading the message of love to all corners of the world. Join us in creating a world of compassion, one act of kindness at a time.